going to be in for a very long podcast.
Gee, Jiminy,
Jesus,
is that
what the hell did you
moonshine?
have there? Straight from the bathtub.
I got a long night ahead of me is what I fucking got.
What my ideal solution is that next time Steam does a flip-flop and says, actually, everything's okay, we have to have it be like the Magna Carta. They have to sign it in blood in front of, like, a priest, a rabbi, a representative from every religion, and the sight of every deity in the world, and it must be a legally binding document in every nation. That is what has to happen, is that everybody tells me, like, I was playing Elden Ring for so long, I couldn't think about anything else. I was sitting there drooling, and I hadn't washed in 10 days.
Oh, that's the other John. That's the other John.
I'll be blunt, though. Elden Ring is a damn
I'm just, like, kind of, like, catatonic in the dim glow of my TV screen, and my wife is closing the door behind her as she packs up and leaves with the kids, kind of thing. But hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hey Poor Podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Trussler, and with me today we have Cory.
Konnichiwa, what's up, friendos?
We have Pernell Frilho Vaughan of the Rhythm and Pixels podcast.
Also, konnichiwa. Hello, everybody.
Very good. Ripping off Cory a little bit there, but
I had to. He gave it to me. I had to.
And finally, we have none other than the irrepressible Benny Carrillo.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to the Hey Poor Player podcast, where today we're going to regale you with many fanciful and delightful tales regarding games, Yuri, and of course, Gundam. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Should I have been sipping tea while you said
We're
that?
going to be in for a very long podcast.
Gee, Jiminy,
Jesus,
is that
what the hell did you have
moonshine?
there? Straight from the bathtub.
I got a long night ahead of me is what I fucking got.
Prove it. Let's get this show on the road.
It's not even alcoholic. It's home crafted root beer.
Oh.
I got it from a festival that I went to, and they had these bottles. I'm like, I had to get one of those for the podcast. I actually haven't poured a glass, but
I'm not gonna lie. If I had access to a bottle like that with a beverage, I would have done the same. You made a gentleman's wager, and it's paying off.
Were you did you get a good workout when you were running away from Elliot Ness there, Cory?
Yeah, you know, that glass, it's a good weight. It gives you a good exercise on your hands. Hurts the fingers after a while, though, you know?
You damn shiner. I'll get you next time, Rummy. Anyway.
No, you won't.
Anyway, talking of miscreants and criminals, vile criminals, yes, the big piece of news in September was GTA 6 was leaked by an unscrupulous hacker. A leak of unprecedented proportions in gaming history, really. I'm wondering what everyone's take on this was.
Well, as someone that regularly posts leaks, links to leaks off Genshin all the time, I understand the base that surrounds these leak cultures. You know, you see this stuff pop up, and it does make headlines because it's considered a breach, but I guess the thing to really ask, is it really all that bad for the company if it's giving people an idea of what to look forward to?
And I would say in regards to that point, normally in a lot of the circumstances of leaks we're used to seeing, I would agree with you. But from the little bit I do know about this particular leak, it kind of sabotages the expectations of the game for folks who don't temper their expectations. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it was very early build leaks, and it also included code for the game, too. So, one, you're not really giving people much knowledge because most of that game that you're seeing probably won't even be that when it's finalized. Two, angry, particularly unaware people are going to just take that and do their usual angry rabble-rousing on the internet, thereby further adding toxicity to the gamerscape, which is not good. And the last point that came to mind Well, since code was also leaked, that could be problematic for their game as a whole. People hacking their game after the fact and also using their code to produce their own games down the line, reverse engineering it and the like. So it's a really bad leak, at least in this case. Like news of like Pokemon and Genshin and like things like that. That's cool. It's like, hey, a Pokemon Nintendo is going to tell us about in 2 months. We know about them now. That's frigging. Now we know about this stupid fake Wiggler thing instead of Diglett. That's great. But this is a whole nother can of worms, to my understanding.
I just want to say, like, the way it was allegedly done through a kind of social engineering thing. I think he was like a teenage hacker. Well, I mean, I'm not even sure if it was just kind of social engineering. He just kind of got his way into Slack groups and just sort of posed as someone who should have this information or something like that. I mean,
well, that's totally social engineering.
Yeah, it's social engineering, and like, I mean, a lot of people are probably gonna lose their jobs over that. I would imagine, getting fooled by that. And I just think it's altogether rather sad, really, because I mean, every GTA game pretty much has been great. I mean, it's been a defining part. I hope I'm not venturing to say all of our lives. Just that day, you first pop it in the console, and you're just immersed in this massive world, and like, you're exploring it for the first time, and it's like it's ruined some of the magic of that. Just seeing it in this sort of janky, kind of behind the scenes state, and it's very kind of unpleasant to me. I think on just all kinds of levels.
Well, you got to remember though too that I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
I wanted to jump in and kind of pivot off that. I'll say I don't have a lot of experience with GTA. It's not one of those things I play, follow, whatnot, etc. But this whole thing, when we're talking about basically ruining expectations of people seeing an early build, let's use something else that happened this year. Remember how everyone was losing their shit over how bad Sonic Frontiers looked during the early builds that they were showing off? And it's one of those things you go, okay, it's an early build. Now, we've all probably, been into a trade show at least once, and at least we've seen early builds, and we know you can't quite, you give feedback, but you can't quite critique them as the same way you would a full product. Unfortunately, the average person is not familiar with that process, and especially this being the internet, doesn't know how to temper their thing. So automatically it sucks. And that is for at least, without going into like the business side of it for the most part, for their PR team though, this is a complete nightmare because now they cannot control the message and kind of present the game in a way that they feel is best. Now, it is GTA, so I think they'll recover from it just fine, and I think the controversy will help them a little bit more in the end because one, it gets them some more exposure, but two, the GTA fan base, the real fans, I think, are going to rally around them, and they're going to support the game and go, look, we understand this is an early build. If you can show us something cool, if not, then, which I think if I was their PR team, I would immediately start putting together some stuff to show what your current builds are or something similar to it. Kind of like you would like the Nintendo E3 demo, except don't do the Skyward Sword one where you had problems with the Bluetooth on the Wiimote. But something like that where it's a polished demo and take users through it to go, hey, we're basically going to fight back against this and show you what we're actually working on, not give you everything, but at least assuage your fears. And I think they could capitalize on it then.
I have to actually disagree somewhat. I think the way Rockstar would have liked to do this would be to only show footage when it is in its most polished form. Believe me, they've seen what happened with Cyberpunk 2077. They are not going to. They have a massive legacy. They are not going to release this game until it is finished. It is spotless, just like Red Dead Redemption 2 was on release. It will be on release. I know that's got to be the case. So I don't think what they should do is try and like rush together some kind of press pack. It's like, no, honestly, our game's good. It's just like it should say, we know our game's going to be good. It'll be finished when it's ready, when it's in a state it's meant to be in, and it will because that's our reputation.
Yes.
That's what we already have done. That's
and there's also that extra bit too. Like I agree with what you're saying 100% in the sense of why, at least this company, I could see if it was a smaller company, I was like really freaking out for the essence of PR, but for a company like Rockstar especially, it feels almost like it would be counterintuitive for them to leap into the lion's den after what these these leakers did to them. Like basically, oh, we got to react to them. We got to show them that this is this. Like, no, we don't need to do that. We know what we can do. We know what we're capable of. And let's be honest here. Most of the people that you see online right now claiming that's a terrible looking game and trash talk it, when that game hits the shelves, they're going to outright be posting how crappy it is while they're at the register buying it anyway. So it's just internet vitriol for vitriol's sake.
They're going to be talking about how crap it's going to be while they're camped outside the store, roasting their hot dogs, singing Kumbaya at 4 a.m.
Worst game ever. Why are you here? Well, I'm not going to miss a GTA. I mean, come on, man.
Exactly. And I think it's just sort of a sad spectacle.
It is.
I guess we could ask, is there any silver lining to this? I mean, I guess one thing that might come good out of it is is actual constructive criticism from some fans that actually want to say, hey, this looks good, but if you did it this way and this way, it might help with the later build of it. Do you feel like there's enough of a fan base to justify that as a silver lining?
I feel like the only silver lining is that it will make people be a bit perhaps tighter with their security protocols, be a little, give the employees some more training about social engineering. So this won't happen.
That's one of the hardest things to do in IT. I'm just going to say that right the hell now.
I get two seminars every year, trainings about it. Don't look at bad emails. Confirm that the actual source is valid. Like, I know, but then I realize that what we're talking about right now happens, which is why I have to sit through it 2 times a year. It's just the way it is. But I would say there is a second silver lining to this, which came up. I want to say Kotaku wrote about it, but I don't think it necessarily was facilitated by them. It just kind of happened. But a number of other companies saw what happened with this company, and then they came out and said, no. This is what early builds look like for games you've already seen, but our data wasn't leaked, so we're sharing it. Yeah, like you saw the one for Control where like Jesse was wearing a suit and the box said, lift me. It's just like...
I do like that level of camaraderie between developers, because it's to show that they're all building with the same tools. They all are under the same kind of scrutiny.
Yeah,
like it was wonderful.
I have to agree. Like, I mean, there are some games that are just string you out on like early access footage and crowdfunding for years and years and years and years. But this is the kind of game that can afford to be released when they've got more than enough money to release it, when it's ready, when it's polished. And I think and I hope that is what they will do. Okay. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
No, I'm square.
Okay,
I think we got it.
So moving on, the other big news of the last month is Google Stadia shutting down. That's it. Game over, man. Game over.
That was a thing?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of a thing as Google Glasses were.
Oh, okay.
I've seen 2 responses to this across the internet from like my social circle. One is, what is Stadia? And 2, uncontrollable laughter. I'm a little bit of I'm almost indifferent to it because Stadia was not for me, straight up. Like I'm not a subscriber of like the digital subscription service bit for all of my entertainment, especially one where I have to actually purchase the device that needs the subscription to be used. But I also realize that the landscape is changing, and there are people now who do kind of see gaming more of as a disposable hobby. And I say that not out of like a sense of like disregardment or maliciousness, but literally you look at how it was when we were kids. And I say that knowing that I'm probably like twice the age of everyone in this chat, but,
back in my day,
in ancient times,
back in the NES,
literally the NES. Yeah, that's the era I'm thinking for sure. But like NES up through like maybe, like PS1 Saturn, games just kind of, they flowed, but we didn't have an abundance of them enough to be like, well, I can just choose on a whim a number of games I want, generally at a very low price, and just be oversaturated in options for entertainment.
And I'm only probably able to be play 10-20% of them.
Yeah, good luck playing half the crap coming out now. I mean, heck, I was on Hey Poor Player today and saw a review for a game I didn't know existed, but I want now. Was the Outbound Ghost? It was.
Josh covered that one.
Yeah, it looks really cool, and I'm sitting there thinking, there's another example. For every 20 games, I'm I look forward to this. There's another 100 that I have no idea exists. So a lot of folks are just dipping their toe in a bunch of stuff, disregarding it, throwing away, and waiting for the next big thing for them because there's just too much. So a subscription service is the equivalent of watching junk food TV. You turn on your Stadia. What's on this channel? You play the game for a bit. You turn it off and move on to the next one. So that I get, which is why something like that has a place or will have a budding place, especially as more, I hate to say this, gaming networks become prevalent. But for now, as a guy who still likes to buy his stuff as best he can and somehow try to have a physical embodiment of it, I don't miss it. I'm fine with it being going.
So, you see, I like the theory of Google Stadia. The idea, just wherever you are, whether you've got a mobile phone or a crappy laptop or your big screen TV, wherever it is, wherever you can just log on to Google Stadia and you can just play it in perfect quality from somewhere, a server across the world. I like the idea. I love the idea. In practice, it hasn't really been like that. There have been a lot of teething problems, people not having enough bandwidth.
I think a lot of it is just it's just looking at other options. I mean, you think about it. Yeah, great is that you could take your games on the go, but with the rise of things like the Nintendo Switch, the Steam Deck, and even just mobile phones in general, was there really a shortage of take anywhere games?
The issue there is if you're going to download a game on your phone, it is limited by the hardware specs of your phone. Now, if you're playing it on Stadia, it's limited only, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's only limited by the hardware of the device you're streaming it off of, which is probably, I think, some kind of supercomputer. So
I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah. So I love the idea.
The bandwidth.
Because that means, whatever device you have, log on to Stadia, and you are playing it on a supercomputer somewhere across the world.
Remember, Microsoft is doing the same thing, though. I mentioned Game Pass because one of the functions with Game Pass, if I remember correctly, they have their Xbox Cloud Gaming service. In fact, there are TVs which are going to be coming with the Xbox app, so you can do exactly that.
And PlayStation is doing it as well. I mean, I think the idea of Stadia is meant to be, it's it's all in on the idea. It's not just kind of sort of 1 foot in. It's both feet, both hands in.
Right.
Yeah, exactly that. Because you mentioned Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Now, mind you. And we'll see if this changes with my Steam Deck arrives on Wednesday. But my current take on those is at least that, I have an Xbox Series X. I got the all-in gamers package, which included 2 years of Ultimate. And I'm cool with that. But I feel like in my case, I've mostly been using it as a means to say, I really want to buy this game. Oh, wait, it's on Game Pass. Now I don't have to buy it. And if I don't play it, which generally is what happens because I'm oversaturated, then that just ends up being better in that regard. I didn't spend the money on a game to just sit on my coffee table because it was on Game Pass.
I love the idea of, instead of, panicking, when do I have to update my graphics card? When do I have to update my CPU? When do I have to do this? When do I have to do that? I love the idea of just, log on, play it on a supercomputer, highest settings across the board for £12 a month or whatever.
But that's the thing, though.
It's a cool idea, but I don't know if the technology's quite there yet, and I don't know if it's saturated yet.
It's absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I don't know where my Switch is. I was gonna grab it, but no, that's actually my biggest problem with the Switch right now. We are seeing a crap ton of titles that are coming to Switch as cloud ports. Which means, yes, you got the game, but because the Switch is not powerful enough to run it, you've got to run a cloud version. And it's like, I feel so bad because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are buying some of these games, like Kingdom Hearts, I believe, is one that has to be run via cloud, I think.
Yeah, you're right. That one's
it's like, it's like, what, parents going to buy that for their kids thinking they can play Kingdom Hearts maybe now on the go because it has Disney or something, and it's like, oh, you don't have an internet connection. No, you can't. You know, it's like that kind of thing. I'm just like, we're not at that point, and I'll be honest, the Switch is not even though it's mobile, even like the Steam Deck is mobile, it doesn't have a cellular modem in it. So if you're not at home and not on Wi-Fi, you either got tethered to your phone.
Funny that the Vita had that. The Vita actually had
that's,
that.
that's a good point, actually.
Ahead of its time.
I have that Vita.
It's a good point, actually. It's not like a traditional portable thing where you can just play it on the go. You need to be somewhere with a pretty damn decent internet. You know.
And our infrastructure for internet in America is rocky.
Yeah, I mean, especially
especially
on the
the
train
country,
or on the highway or something.
If you're running around in the country around here, you are going to have a whole bunch of dead spots around here where there's nothing, no signal anywhere. You are out in the middle of nowhere.
It's a bit dusty, but this is actually a 3G Vita.
Yeah, the PSV 1000s. They had the ability to put the Wi-Fi card in there, or the NIC in there.
Yeah,
And
I still have
later
my old
they got rid
Vita
of it.
here. I stand by my belief that system was way ahead of its time. And this one was like, screw this piece of
It had
junk.
an OLED screen from the get-go. That thing was designed to beat out any mobile
And
technology.
then they got rid of that too. They were like, we don't want an
They dropped all
OLED.
these good ideas. It's kind of funny because the Vita itself was so far ahead of its time compared to some of the other devices we have now. Like, you look at it, and really, the combination of the Vita and the PSTV, we had a Switch before the Switch ever even came to light. The PSTV basically turned it into a Switch dock.
Yeah, I used to I kind of still refer to the Switch as the Vita 2.0, and it bugs me quite a bit because there are things that the Switch got right that the Vita failed at, most notably the memory unit or the storage capacity unit. So, like, I can put as micro SD in there versus the Vita with its 64 gig have to import from Japan card that fails all the time. But
$120 for them fucking things.
And it broke constantly. I already have a broken memory card. Lost my freaking Share in the Wanderer file. I'll never forgive that. That's hundreds of hours of time. But
that's another thing. Yeah, I wanted to talk about. Now, the other issue with Stadia closing down, I saw a news report about this one player who's put 6,000 hours into his Red Dead Redemption 2 character on Stadia. And he's
wait. 6,000 hours.
Yes, 6,000 hours.
And you can't port it.
He is campaigning for them to just give him some kind of a way to port his character over, onto another system.
That's 250 days.
Yes, so
you beat me to it. I was running the cow. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
The man is mad, but he has the right to. He has the right.
I'm not
to
knocking his
game.
flow on the upset.
Yes,
that amount of time.
That's a lot of time. But you think about it, we see the same thing happen with MMOs a lot. People sink thousands of hours in them, and then the servers shut down. What happens to all your shit? Gone forever.
No, that's true.
And one reason I've never been a fan of them.
It's the finality of it, and I can understand why it would spook a lot of people. You realize that all that effort is just now, poof, gone. You have no way of showing people that I was here, I did this way.
And it's wild in a way, too. I mean, because, like, you think about, say, our old memory cards that are sitting around that have data on them from when you last played a game in 2008. And I've been going through that recently with my PS2, like putting in old memory cards. Like, oh, last time I played this was in 2003. Like my Guitar Man file. I found that still running. But the fact of the matter is, it's like you said, I think it is mainly the finality of it that's the real crux, because really, we have hundreds of game files floating around that we haven't touched in ages. It's just the fact that we understand that we still have them somewhere that makes you feel comfortable and secure, despite the fact that you may never engage it again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like
the same logic
the
of wanting to
old
buy
scrapbook that you can just open sometimes and think, yes, what a lovely memory.
What was I doing with this character? What the hell was these stats all about?
I did that a while back, even not even that far back, even as far back as, like the Xbox 360. I look back at some of my old Halo Reach maps that I forged many, many, many years ago now. I'm like, man, those are like capsulated memories. And you can't get that with a lot of server-based games, because once the server's gone, you will never have it back. It is gone for good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's been that way for like a couple multiplayer games I really liked.
Babylon's Fall.
Is anyone aware of the very, very nice Ghost in the Shell standalone complex first-person shooter?
I have heard of it.
Yeah.
I have heard of it, but I've never seen that thing in action.
It was it was my favorite online first-person shooter ever, and they canned it because they didn't have enough people playing it, and all my stats, character, everything. I can never play it again. It's gone forever, and perhaps that's kind of a sad trend, really. And perhaps that is why, for now, physical games, single-player games.
Let's keep it physical.
Yeah.
So one thing I learned, and I'm scared about this, is actually something that will happen, and I experienced it in a matter of a fluke, and I'm hoping it was just a mad fluke. I was playing Switch one day outside of an internet connection range. I put in a cart and tried to play it. Game said, needs an update to play. I was like, okay, well, I'm not on the internet right now, so I'll not get the update. And the Switch says, well, you can't play your game until you update it.
If
Which
only
freaked me
you
the
had
heck out.
been connected to the internet to get the information that you needed an update, then you would have been okay.
So it goes to show you, I mean, a number of us probably could show you photos of like their Switch collections of physical games that they're going to get to someday. And what that implies is the possibility to say, hey, I've been updating my actual Switch because, it updates. And now I have a chance to play this game, possibly when the Switch is no longer a thing, because as we know, Nintendo sucks at that kind of thing when it comes to new systems and keeping the old infrastructure intact. You might try to put in this physical game ready to play it, and the game needs an update because your Switch has been updated, but now you can't
the server.
Yeah, the server ain't there. So it's a scary thought.
That's going to result in a lot of people doing homebrew cracks. They are going to mod the crap out of it to get past that crap.
Yeah, but then it just goes to show you if it's a situation where we already know people may well need to have mods and cracks to play games you bought after the fact, it kind of disinvalues the idea of owning it to wait to play it in the first place, because you already got to do the thing you were trying to avoid doing just to use it.
Here's the thing. I'll just real quick. I completely agree with you. The one thing, unfortunately, every publisher will tell you is you don't own that game. We gave you a license to play it when you bought the disc. And I'll say, the thing is, they're technically legally correct, but
it's an alarming
don't work
thought.
like that. But
yeah, they'll tell you that.
We're emotional people. We build attachments to these things because we bought them. And at the same time, if we like these games, we build emotional attachments to them because we enjoy the characters in the world. So we do feel like, in some ways, I spent money on it. I spent time. I own part of this.
It's also funny because it's like you just said, they'll tell you when the time comes, well, you don't own it, you're only licensing it. But when it comes time to be in front of a PR camera, oh, yeah, you can buy the physical copy of this game for $60. Own it as a part of your collection today.
It comes with a coin and a shirt and a map.
Booby pad.
A booby mouse pad for Benny. There you go.
Record of Argorist War. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Record of Argorist War.
Well,
there.
I've got it right back behind me.
So
there was actually a Vita game that did that too. I have the mouse pad for that. It was like
I think perhaps the verdict we may have reached on Google Stadia. Goodbye, Google Stadia. Come back in 10, 20, 30 years. Try again next time.
I'll be in a senior center, so I won't care anymore.
Well, on that fatalistic note, we move on to our next topic. So there has been a restructuring of E3. Benny, I believe you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I'm quoting an Ars Technica piece here, and let me kind of just go ahead and bring it up. There we go. Long and short, it does look like the ESA, I guess, is not running E3 anymore. And I guess it's now being run by ReedPop, who has done other types of like fan convention events, etc. They seem to be. I'm sorry. Yes, PAX actually is in the article. Oh, yeah, I wanted to say TGS, but that's not TGS. There is a reason I'm bringing up TGS. What they're going to be doing apparently is they are going to do a TGS style structure, where apparently the first 2 days are going to be press and industry online. So like the E3 of old. Basically, those of us who are there to basically either go ahead and, if you're in the industry, you're trying to make arrangements, like your distributor, like say Walmart, Best Buy, GameStop, you can go talk with people, get your stuff done. For us in press, we're going there to go, all right, what do you got? All right, cool. I'm going to arrange some time, set up a meeting. We'll get 30 minutes. We'll play through 3 or 4 demos, and then basically we'll go write our stuff up. Day 3 is going to be a hybrid day. So it's going to be still press stuff going on and industry stuff, but you're going to have fans will be able to come in. And then day 4 is just an all fan day. So your press badge isn't going to probably get you in the door that day, or if it gets you in the door, you're still basically just going to have to go through the lines like everyone else. There'll be no press stuff unless maybe you have some sort of meeting set up ahead of time. Again, that's more back end stuff for people who those of us who have covered conventions, or if you're looking to get into this field. A lot of times your coverage is based not necessarily on walking up and going, "Hi, I want to play things." It's making arrangements in advance. For those of us who have gone to E3 before they opened it up to people and after, there was a difference. And I'm not against fans being there, because honestly, when I grew up, I wanted to go to E3 all the damn time. I mean, you're a gamer, you wanted to just go there. It was where everything was announced, and it was so cool. But we're trying to get work done. It was a little hard, and as the article kind of points out, and I understand this, it probably felt a bit unfair to people who were waiting in line for 2 to 3 hours to see these jerks with the press badges just walk up and get in and go. And like I said, a lot of that is we had scheduled meetings most of the time, not all the time, but to try and get our things done, because we're there. We're usually covering probably 20 to 30 games. Maybe per person.
As if people needed any more reason to hate games journalists.
And there's another reason. That's something worth mentioning to that point, too, by the way. So I get the point of what you said about it must suck to be in line as a fan and watching press people cut in front of you. But the realization of E3 beyond that is purpose beyond the smooshing element and like, hey, we give free beers at parties or whatever. It's the idea of being able to say, we're putting news out there for all the people who can't be at E3, the people who are looking forward to seeing. Like, think back to when you were getting EGM magazines for that month. Like, wow, are they announcing E3 this year? And you're looking forward to reading all about it. So while it is great that fans can go now, I mean, I say as a person who attended as a press person back in 2002, at the end of the day, the real crux of the show is to get news out to everybody who wants the news, to show people this is what you get to look forward to this year. So in that regard, I feel like there needs to be more emphasis on staff and press getting access to things to write about and show it out than it is the fans just coming in there and playing and stuff.
Yeah, I'm holding this up for a reason, because I want to shout out a particular thing. So this is Senran Kagura 2. I was at the E3 where Xseed and Marvelous had brought it over and were showing the localized version. I didn't get to play around with it too much that day, and in fact, I actually wrote up the piece for Estival Versus instead that day. Yeah, okay. So you've got one as well. Though that show, E3 is the one time Xseed would get to interact with press all year. That's all they could afford. They're a small publisher, relatively small compared to everyone else, and that was their networking time. That was when they could get, games in front of us and show us that we can. Getting people to write about Senran, as people who are Senran fans know, is kind of friggin' hard. A lot of people didn't want to touch this series with the 10-foot pole, and it was, I'm happy that I went there and I wrote something about Estival that year, and we did cover Senran Kagura 2 that year as well. Someone else wrote a piece for that. But there are a lot of small developers that are or publishers that's their only chance to network with people. So, like I said, I completely understand why some people look at us and go like, well, you guys are like, no, we're there to work. Trust me. We're, as much as it seems like yeah, we're all partying. One, if you have to get invited to those parties, thank you very much. And two, most of us are so friggin' busy trying to make deadlines and write articles, we don't got the time to party, yo. But for the fans, on the other side of that coin, it is important that I think they also get some face time with these games, but also to meet. I honestly think this to meet not the big look. I like Kenichiro Takaki. You know what I like also to do? I like hanging out with the XC people and talking to them and asking them questions about their job and just like, hey, how are things going? Oh, this is really kind of cool. What was it like localizing this? How did you come up with this particular idea during the process? It's good, I think, for fans to put faces to a company so they're not, pardon my French, they're not complete assholes to them online, because a lot of times people are assholes online because they don't see a face. They see a name. They see a logo. And I think when you humanize that a little bit more by getting to see there are real people who are friggin' spending hours, weeks, months, years, especially in the case of going back to our first topic, Rockstar, you might help smooth some of that out, I think. Sorry, rant over.
Yes, indeed.
Good points. Good points.
Fair points indeed.
It makes me wonder, though, like, with what you said there, so you're saying put a face to the entities, right? But being that is E3, even if fans are showing up, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but from what I remember in 2018, they were like so inundated with people coming to their booth during like the general public times that the people that we need to put the faces to, for the most part, were kind of hiding. It's like an oversaturation of faces. Like they couldn't deal with all the people. But to your point, it makes me wonder if it would make sense for them to be like, hey, even though we're a small publisher and we're at E3 here, maybe this would be an opportunity to like say we're going to hold this like short like Q&A and we'll go up on like a little stage and talk. Press people can be there, or even fans can show up for it, and then it can just get put out there to show their faces in that regard.
At Anime Expo, they do some things like that, which they're held in the same place. So I mean, it is possible they could. A lot of those types of rooms, though, are reserved for presentations, and I mean closed door presentations. Because basically all of those meeting halls are basically on the second floor of the expo. But it would be nice if they could do something like that. Like, for example, get one of the larger rooms, and maybe and I'll say I forgot your guys' name. Reed Pop, thank you. I was looking at the article. Reed Pop, if you are listening to this for some reason, consider something like that. Book a room, take one of the little rooms if you can. Give each publisher, give some of the publishers 30 minutes. Let them just do a quick, maybe, book some time. Let them just talk to people, and let them just kind of get out there, introduce themselves. Because I think that the more we humanize these companies, the more people are going to hopefully. I mean, you can't stop assholes from being assholes. That's just, unfortunately, that's a thing. But I think the more we humanize them, the more, and it becomes more apparent that it's not just some faceless corporation. I mean, I think people look at Xseed and go, "Oh, those guys have tons of money and they're like a super big office, etc." Same with Idea Factory International. No, they're not. They're a small team.
Xseed. I mean, the guy's not there anymore, but I feel like the thing that helped me with Xseed on that level was there was a guy that was involved with like the early Trails games that was involved in the translation and acquisition. He used to be all over game FAQs, so you could just straight up have a conversation with him, with other fans, talking about why you're mad this game isn't showing up. He'd tell you why. And that's how I learned Xseed is a small publisher that is pretty much run by fans. I get it. It's like, but more of that needs to be exposed.
Yeah. So, on the whole, do we feel this stratification of E3 into press days and fan days? Do we think it's broadly a good thing or a bad thing or something in between?
I want to give it a try.
Okay.
Good thing.
Good thing.
I think it's a good thing.
Okay. We're all good thing. So if it turns out to be a horrible failure, a horrible disaster, we can come back to this
podcast
video.
episode never happened.
So stupid.
This episode never happened.
Oh, okay. Right, well, moving on to our next topic of discussion. So Twitch has decided to put a gun to its temple and pull the trigger. as they have made a change to their ad revenue. Now, for the longest time, I believe they were getting a more favourable cut of the profits to the much bigger creators, and they were hinting that might change for the longest time, that all Twitch creators would get the same cut as the big boys would. Instead, what they've done is they've had the big boys get the same cut as the little people. And their explanation for it is, well, you can make up the difference by just running even more ads. To the point it's basically like TV. Where, you're just going to have these 5-minute ad breaks every 30, 50 minutes. It's crazy. And what do we all think of the direction that Twitch is going in?
This isn't going to be good for them. I'll just say that outright. I don't know if any of you keep up with some of the stuff that goes on Twitch, but I've been noticing that their server qualities have been dropping and dropping and dropping lately. And even big corporations that are trying to do, official live streams for some of their games can't even do that. They have to go to YouTube because Twitch keeps shitting the bed with their servers. And it's like, you see this now with the big Twitch streamers now getting dropped down to 50-50, this is not going to be good for them. They're going to keep losing people.
So the other thing is about Twitch is they have very, arguably, wildly inconsistent moderation policies. They'll just
are they and Steam the same people?
Wow, yes, very, very good. Very good, Benny. There we go. Let's fight the power. Fight the power. Yes, so, Twitch, they'll just sort of, they can ban you and then just not say why they banned you and then just refuse your appeal. And, that's hurt many big creators. And I think there's been lots of memes about how wildly inconsistent they are. Like, sort of say, I think there was this woman who sort of turned around and showed her nether regions very explicitly. Mm-hmm. I think she got like a 1-day suspension or something. And then there was somebody who said like a rude word that wasn't actually on their list of banned words. They just decided it was a rude word, and he got like permabanned or something. Yeah, there's just full of examples of kind of like ridiculous things, just ridiculous sort of policies and ridiculously inconsistent moderation like that. And I think it's sort of part of Twitch's sad decline, really.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I read something about that too, but that could have been like YouTube, where they were complaining about getting a ban for saying like their stream having like 0.5% of swear words taking up the words they spoke, but then they compared themselves to like the angry video game nerd who had like 12% in his video or something. Well, why is my channel getting knocked off, but this one isn't?
Yeah, I agree. YouTube isn't much better, if at all. That's certainly true.
Do we think this is ever going to get fixed?
I feel,
that's my question.
On the whole, maybe this is just like all the streamers I've watched. I feel like YouTube is a little bit more tolerant than Twitch is. I think that
you get 3 strikes at YouTube.
Yeah, I think that's because Twitch was intended originally, in theory, to be a gaming streaming service, but now it's got your hot tub streams, it's got your political streamers, everything else, and I think the moderation, they're still trying to wrap their heads around all that, whereas YouTube's been doing all kinds of stuff since 2006, so they've had more time, and more mental energy to kind of have somewhat more consistent guidelines.
I feel like we're talking about just like the level of like censorship, or not even so much that, but just like moderation. I think one thing that's a sticky wicket there is the fact that they're trying to moderate it at all. I'm not saying moderation is a bad thing, unless it's something I want to do and they're telling me you can't, and that's totally bad. But it's the sense of saying once you get a group of people whose sole job is to sit there and say, what are these people doing across these thousands of channels that is bad, and then we got to stop it, we got to flag them, It feels like, in some respects, aside from like the most egregious types of things, they should just use like ratings for channels and just deal with it that way. I mean, like if a person's showing their bum on Twitch, okay, have an adults only stream. Give them a flag for like, okay, you're adults only now.
Yes. A very good suggestion.
We call that OnlyFans.
Only Twitch.
Okay, first things first, shout outs to Summoning Salt, because we had mentioned him earlier. Guy is great, does History of World Records videos. The Mega Man 2 video of his was tanked by YouTube for flagging it for swearing, so if you can, go give that a watch. Back on topic. Regarding the adults thing, I agree with you in principle. Here's the problem. The second that you start delving into something as adults-only content, you need a credit card to verify things, okay? That's not the problem. That's a good thing. Credit card companies charge a stupid amount of money when it comes to basically for processing fees, etc., to the business when they do that, because they're considered high-risk transactions. Because a lot of times, say somebody gets a hold of a credit card number, well, you call, well, I didn't do that, or it shows up on your statement that you spent X amount of, on OnlyFans, and your wife goes, or your partner goes, well, what's this about? I didn't do that, and call your credit card company. Well, they're going to dispute the charges, etc. So, in principle, I agree. It would be nice if we could do that. A lot of times, the reason that you have a segregated platform for a lot of this is because there's a financial issue in the background. But in reality, yeah, it should be basically we shouldn't have to have this stupid moderation nonsense. And John, I found a fifth last topic. Put it to the side. Just come back to me when we're done with everything, because it ties into this actually.
Okay, I wanted to actually make a point about the point you just made, which is YouTube's already done this. Done half of it. They've already got credit card verification to verify your age, which you need to do to view certain videos. But there isn't like a separate area for sort of 18 plus YouTube and kiddie YouTube. There's this weird kind of crossover, and when and it's up to each individual. Instead of just saying this goes on, I'm uploading this to 18 plus YouTube, or I'm uploading this to kiddie YouTube or whatever. Instead, it's all the same thing, and each creator has to very carefully mark each video based on what they think is appropriate. Yeah, what it is. And there's a lot of kind of weird grey areas there, and sometimes it's kind of confusingly worded. And that's the problem. YouTube could just create an 18 only section tomorrow. Right. They could do it tomorrow because the credit card verification is already in place, but they're not going to, because I think it's just too much of a disruption to their plan.
Well, there's the stigma, to be honest. Let's be honest. The stigma is part of it.
Yes.
But I do have a general question about that, too, just as from a stance of misunderstanding or not understanding. When you use a credit card to verify age, is that basically equivalent like seeing like $1 charge on the card that's a temporary there just to run it through to say this was processed and they kick it back off?
Yeah, so what happens in that case is, basically they take a small approval, usually like $1 or something, to verify the card goes through and everything's good. Now, let's say that probably there's maybe some small transaction fee with that. I don't know, because a lot of that would be in contracts on the back end. But let's say, for example, then, let's go through this entire idea. So you're on Twitch. You are doing an 18 plus Twitch only thing, whatnot, etc. And they're giving you and you're getting Twitch Prime subscriptions, etc. So you're getting that money. All right. So let's put it this way. Remember that 50-50 split you're now getting? Well, technically now, because those are being processed via credit card somewhere. So what happens is, rather than Amazon, who owns Twitch, basically is paying maybe 2 to 5% basically on each transaction to the credit card network, they're paying now possibly 10, 15, or 20. And so that's kind of where, and now Amazon and Twitch is making less money. They're going to definitely go ahead and clamp down on how much ad revenue you're getting, or they're just going to be like, oh well, ads now or this revenue only generates this X amount of money now.
And that's what I was curious about, because it was like the thought of saying like, yeah, you're not buying anything, but even just those verification charges runs up a bill that they don't want to pay, so he passes on to the consumer, being the Twitch channel.
Isn't it funny, like how it kind of feels like things are coming full circle? So originally, like YouTube and Twitch would be this alternative to traditional TV, And TV would be very polished. It would be very kind of artificial. It'd be you'd have ads every 15 minutes, 30 minutes coming up. There's blah, blah, blah. And initially, YouTube and Twitch were an alternative towards that. But now, if you want to be on YouTube or Twitch, you have to be very polished. You've got to have the right lighting. You've got to have all the right cool little emotes. It's basically like TV. And now they're going to have the ads every 15 minutes as well. So now it is basically like TV was, 15, 20 years ago.
It is funny you say that because I remember way back when I first discovered YouTube, my first thought was like, it's like they finally said, we're tired of trying to petition to get on America's Funniest Home Videos. We want to put our own funny videos up without Bob Saget's approval.
The Wild West of early YouTube is fucking wild. There's some shit on there that you would never see done today.
Well, I think the only there's a few little holdouts. Like, do any of you know Superhuman? Okay.
No.
So Superhuman is a young man. He's a juggalo. The insane clown posse. They're the fans. Mm-hmm. And each video he says, goes out to all the juggalos and juggalettes. Today I will be jumping onto barbed wire, cactuses, tack strips, Legos, and thumbtacks. And then he'll do like a somersault on them, and they'll just be like, God!
Oh, God.
I'm the real jackass.
That's great. It's so he never ran ads on them, and it's just like, wow, this is old school YouTube. Brilliant.
You guys ever watch a show called "Is It a Good Idea to Microwave This"?
I've heard of it.
It is a wonderful example of the early Wild West of YouTube. Two idiots putting stupid shit in a microwave and seeing what happens. And one of them almost got killed when they put an airbag in it.
Jeez.
Holy.
Like on their own circuit breaker, no less.
Almost killed one of them. And it's just like, there's no way in hell you'd see shit like that nowadays. Back in the day, when your highest resolution was 480p and you couldn't upload more than 10 minutes at a time.
Oh no! I remember back in the old days of early days of Let's Playing. When that first started, and I remember trying to do some of that. And we had to contend with the 10-minute uploads, etc. So you're all trying to
record
play
with
the
Fraps.
game.
If Fraps was crap.
Fraps and what was the other one? Cam.
Oh God, I can't remember it. Oh, I can't remember. Hypercam.
Yes. Yeah. But it's like you recorded all this, dear Lord.
It was.
I was so much younger.
It was terrible and also wonderful at the same time.
Nostalgic in a painful way. Sometimes.
Happy memories.
Just like floppy disks.
Ah, yes, floppy disks. Yes.
Give them a bit of Viagra, they became CDs.
Wonderful memories. But enough about the halcyon past and on to the future. Now, Benny, you had a super secret Easter egg of a fifth topic, I believe.
Okay, so we were talking about basically because I made the crack about Valve, but Valve actually with Steam came back into the news this week for what else? Inconsistent moderation. So
don't tell me they got worse with censorship. Oh no.
Okay, so have you ever? I haven't played it, but I know of it. Have you ever heard of Steins Gate?
Yes, I love it.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so Spike Chunsoft, all right? So that's the Science Adventure series.
Chaos
Chaos Head was coming out. Guess where Chaos Head's not coming out on?
Hello, folks. Jonathan here with a quick but important little interlude. Benny asked me to mention that since the recording of this podcast and during the editing process, Steam have reversed their decision and decided to release Chaos Head. So please bear that in mind during the upcoming rant.
Steam apparently.
Oh, brilliant.
Because apparently people were like, I can't believe it's going to be on the Switch, but not on Steam.
Because apparently, and again, I'm going to shout out Ars Technica, it's where I read the original article for this one. I love the title, even Nintendo does what Valve don't. Because, it's like, that is brilliant, and kudos to is that. Kyle Orland, that is a great headline, so kudos on that. But basically, because of the school setting, basically they're banning it. Is what everyone is basically the conclusion that people have come to. And there are in the article
and stuff in the game.
Yeah, but
I feel
at the
like
same
there's
time,
worse
Corpse
out there already on
Now,
Steam.
I feel like
Party has that.
I feel like
Yeah.
I say this every time, but I remember when Steam made a big announcement. From now on, everything is okay forever, and consumers can make the choice. And I wrote an article, one of the very, very few articles that said, "Okay, are you sure about that? Do you really mean that? Can we have some more details?" And people was like, "Oh, John, you're an idiot. Like Valve, they're going to do everything.
Yeah,
Everything's
that
going to be
article just
sunshine and
stayed in on the
rainbow.
screen.
Yeah, everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows from now on." But
Till it ain't.
wasn't, and I
No,
told
and
you so.
You are
there we
entitled to make that statement. You earned it.
Yeah.
that is the cry, the battle cry of an embittered old man. I told you
Told you so. Because it's all fun and games until it's not. Somebody came down the pike and said, "We can't let this crap happen anymore. Too many complaints are coming. We're tired of the emails."
Yeah. Anyway, that sounds really stupid. To be honest,
The problem is again, it's that, and this is there are people now more and more in the industry who deal with visual novels are coming out, and there's some are cited in this article, but it's inconsistent. The whole thing is, and they're openly saying it now, Valve has a problem with Japanese developed visual novels. Period. Is if it's got a Japanese schoolgirl in it, and it is done in an anime style, don't bother submitting it to Steam, because they're going to just be basically kicked out. However, if you're a Western developer, I'm sure they'll let you be perfectly fine.
But then now you got me wondering the question here. This is obviously just related, but not. How many Western developed visual novels involving schoolgirls and death and violence are there?
well, you say that, but that's the thing. It's like I remember like Life is Strange, that, for example, that's all about teenagers and that. And that's got, a fair amount of violence and stuff in it. And a bit of, sex as well. But I think sort of the treatment of it is more like this is a drama rather than what Japanese visual novels might
do.
do.
People lying down, the screen goes black, like, wow, that was fun.
A little bit, I mean, it is a drama, but also I think the Japanese have a bit more of a different attitude, shall we say. Benny, you explain. You open this can of worms.
Oh no! I've actually want to take the reins back on this one because here's the thing. I'll go with. I see where you're coming from in that aspect, and there is a cultural divide. Look, Japanese are more open about sex, and I think they have a healthier attitude because we stigmatize. Pardon me, I'm going to do some swear. We stigmatize the fuck out of it here. We do, and it really just kind of needs to stop. It's not some dirty, shameful thing. It is a thing that occurs. It's a natural thing in life, and it's a beautiful thing. So it's like, get off your damn high horses, people. But, and I say, go ahead.
I will say this, though, not refuting your point in regards to the video game scape, but Japan definitely has its own hang-ups that they need to get rid of in regards to adult entertainment, too.
Not even adult entertainment. And we'll talk about this later, but the fact that this is a Japanese light novel, and you literally still cannot have gay marriage in Japan, for example, shows one of the examples of them not being able to, that their culture is kind of all over the place. And again, no culture is perfect, okay? But I think one of the reasons that Japanese, developers and whatnot, and mangakas are more creative and push that envelope is because they are repressed societally in that aspect. But they're going now into cultural analytics, etc. But here's kind of the key thing. Yes, you're right. There are eroge, which are specifically 18 plus eroge, which sex is the entire point of the game. There are sexual scenes, etc. You also have plenty of other, Japanese visual novels, etc., that might have some fan service. But a lot of the stuff is played, straight or played for drama. And just because of I don't think you should ban something without, just based on an aesthetic. It's the same thing going back to the summoning salt stuff. Yeah, YouTube basically flagged his video because of the fact there was some swearing in it. And as he points out, it's an hour and a half video, and they reviewed it in 43 minutes. And it's like, I'll go, okay, let me give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they have some algorithm that found a particular portion based on the audio, and they reviewed that thing and didn't review anything around, and maybe reviewed a little bit around it for context. You can make an argument for that, but you still have to give something a fair shot and a fair look. And I don't think Valve whoever the hell is, and I'm sorry, but this is something that pisses me off. Whoever the hell is on Valve's moderation team, get off your high horse, and if you don't feel comfortable with the content in the frickin' game, don't ban it. You need to go ahead and raise your hand to your boss and go, I'm not comfortable with this. Can you have someone else on the moderation team take a look at this, please? Thank you. Because you're biased against it. Let's be honest. If I work for the ESRB and I run across a game that I'm supposed to review and I go, wow, this is basically has suicide in it. Maybe suicide's something that affects me personally because I lost a loved one. I had to have a hang-up on this. I probably should not be the person to review and certify this game for an ESRB rating. That's the same thing with Valve. If you have a hang-up about something and you do not feel comfortable with the content and do not think you can make an unbiased judgment of it, hand it off to somebody else.
I have another observation to make. I think, that may be some of it. I think another part of it might be our social media atmosphere in the West is different than in Japan. Like,
very much so.
As you were saying, like anything with a schoolgirl uniform in it, it's like, it's alarm bells, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. And, it's like, if that kind of gets onto social media and just some person with too much time on their hands raises a fuss about that, Valve are going to get in a lot of trouble. Whereas in Japan, just be like, oh, this is a work of fiction, this is a drawing, it's a novel, so what? Who cares?
And that's honestly kind of why I did the...
Maybe that's a healthier attitude, some would say.
But I think that's kind of why when I did the general question from earlier, I tried to specify like the combination of the subject matter and the location, so to speak, because I feel like, and I ain't gonna lie, in some respect for good reason too. Like over here, there's a heavier stigma in regards not so much the sex element, so much as the characters in this environment that the story is taking place in for that premise, and whether or not it's actually something worthy of, I don't want to say scorn, but narrower judgment, can go either way. It's hard to say. I feel like that's the situation where it's like, okay, if you're going to use this premise or this plot point in this setting, you kind of have to be willing to like really give it a review, because just seeing the combination isn't enough to say this is bad news. It's more like, okay, what are they doing with it to make it count as being a negative?
I'm going to take your point and run with it real quick and go, I've talked about this game before. This is Princess Eventia. It was released by Manga Gamer, and this is an 18-plus version of it.
Okay.
Long story short, most cliche story you will probably hear for one of these setups. Guy ends up enrolls in an all-girls school because he is the first candidate, basically, to make the schools eventually move to co-ed, and it's a test. So, completely cliche plot. I'm sure everyone's probably going, oh, well, there's going to be tons of raunchy sex, whatnot, etc., etc. There is sex in this, don't get me wrong. Not that kind of story. This story is actually a very heartwarming and well-written story. And in fact, what a lot of people think about with those other types of games, they're called nukige, where basically not to be confused with nakige, which that is the crying game. So say something like Kana Emoto that is really sad and is supposed to evoke emotions. Nukige are specifically designed for sexual pleasure, for lack of a better term. They are porn. They're straight up basically just porn. This is more like, think of it this way. You have a really well-written romance novel, and there are sex scenes in it. Does that make it pornographic? Or basically outright porn, and it should be judged in that way? Some would say, well, it has explicit content, but you wouldn't judge it the same way as, say, just straight up 3 hours of porn. This I'll finish it real quick and then hand it off to you for now, but this game literally brought me to tears during one of the endings, because it was just story-wise, it's a beautiful story. And the fact that we can't actually get games like this, it's hard for us to talk about games like this. It's hard to get people to even decide to pick up one of these types of games and play it when there's a beautiful story there that and like I say, the setting is cliche, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's going to be for everybody. Just, that's what pisses me off so much and got me into covering VNs and eroges, because the stigma behind them, is just so much. And Valve was supposed to originally, and yes, it was always going to be an uphill fight, but Valve has now just started to do so much damage to the industry. It frustrates the absolute hell out of me.
So one thing I wanted to observe further to your point is that some companies have kind of hedged their bets with Steam. Like you're aware of Kagura Games, right, Benny?
Mm-hmm.
So what they'll do, every game they'll release a normal version where magically, like, say it's just say this is about a woman who goes to university, makes some friends, has a nice time, and goes home. It's a lovely story. But and then you'll sort of hang on. That seems a bit of a thin premise, right? And then you look into it. Oh, right, it's got an 18+ patch that has all the crazy ass sex scenes in it that actually kind of adds half the story. And every game they'll have the normal game with all the content excised and the 18+ patch you have to download. And that's quite a kind of a clever way of getting around Steam's mad inconsistent censorship system.
You're right. Go ahead, Purnell. I've gone on for a while, so go and I'll follow up
hang on
this.
a minute. You said you're right. Yeah. You're right.
I just want to clarify a general point, but I want to go right back to what you were saying after I say this. It's, for me, it's like I said, it's not even about, like, what you described about that book and the premise and all that. It sounds good. Like, it sounds fine. I think the main hiccup, and I make this reference to a lot of, like, just games and development in general, too, not just in this regard, but there's like this desire for writers and game developers and manga writers to be like, okay, we have this really awesome story. Now let's put them in the premise of like, here's a bunch of teenagers in high school and give them this plot. And it's like, okay, well, you can write this fantastic story with these intricate characters, but it's the fact that they put them in this setting, in this bracket of ages, that creates the issue where it's like, okay, does Steam feel comfortable releasing this? And now, when I say that, I'm not, even in any way refuting what you're saying, because I get it.
Right.
And I feel like if I read it, I might be like, yes, he's right. This is awesome. It's just by being so intent on holding that specific place and like story writing as a need for most of these stories, they give themselves a situation where it's like, okay, we're stuck with this. We're stuck here. Like, I'm trying to remember, there was a game I remember coming across a little ways back where it was like that, but for the sake of getting around it, it just aged everybody up 10 years. And that resolved the problem right there. It was like, here are a bunch of 25-year-olds going to school.
It's not like, a school, it's a private academy. Or something like that, yeah.
Oh, they do, here's the thing. I mean, Final Fantasy VII, Tifa Lockhart was aged up for the US version, which I think he was 13 or 14 in the Japanese, and I think 16 or 17 in the US version. And that's way back in the original PS1 Final Fantasy VII. So, I mean, it's been done before. And in fact, this game basically, goes ahead and says, well, basically, they're all seniors in, like, their last year of high school. So they're like all 18. And in fact, when you boot up the game, there's a big splash screen that says all characters in this thing are 18+. While I'm sure in the Japanese version, they're not. That's, again, a cultural thing. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing with prefectures. I'm just going to go with more cultural in the aspect of, I think Japan focuses on the younger age group for everything, not just this, but like even anime, etc. Because I think in their culture, they feel once you become an adult, that is the end of life. It's just with the salaryman,
military. What was it? Like, that was the running joke for Final Fantasy VII. It was like Cloud Strife as a 16-year-old, like well-mettled soldier.
That's what I liked about Final Fantasy VII is that, like, in the version I played anyway, it's like, they were in their 20s. They had a bit of life experience. They'd done some stuff. And then I remember, like, Final Fantasy IX, like, Zidane's, he's like 15, 16, or something like that. There did seem to be this kind of, like, like, Final Fantasy VIII, like, Quistis is supposed to be like a teacher or something, isn't she? But she's 17. Yep. A 17-year-old teacher. What the hell?
Well, Final Fantasy VIII's plot is a whole, and I've got nothing against 8.
We're
I'm
all
just gonna say
from
right
the
now.
same orphanage.
No, you're talking about aging people up.
Plot.
They're talking about aging people up. You've got like a university with like 16-year-old students and 17-year-old teachers, and the university can fly. That was Final Fantasy VIII for you.
You can fire your dog off of your shoulder.
It's like, who cares about where the university is in the league tables? It can fucking fly, okay? I want to go to that university. Think of the view from my dorm room.
But to go back to your point, John, with the patches, the patches in principle are good. The problem you run into is twofold. One, you have certain companies like Denpasoft who charge for those patches.
Ooh.
And that's like Opara is a good example of that. The other thing, though, is let's say, okay, Pernell, you're getting one of these, okay?
Yes.
Steam Deck, okay? How are you installing the patch on this?
That's a good question, because I'm saying as a guy who doesn't know how my Steam Deck's going to work, so I don't know what happens there.
It's possible, it can be done, but it's the same thing, but at the same time, you've got to get a patch that'll work for the Linux distro of that. The game has to be compatible with it. And I say this having done some work on this, and look, I'm going to be friggin' honest, after playing around with trying to get VNs to run, I think I actually did install Princess Evangel on this to see if I get it to run. I have an SD card, I'm going to install Windows on the damn thing and just boot to Windows. And that's how I'm going to use my Steam Deck. And it's just
so is that much of a headache to just install the game and patch directly to the Steam Deck?
If the game, I'll say, we're going a little off, here's the issue.
Sorry.
Steam Deck is based off of a Linux OS. So this game was written for Windows. It does not have a Linux version. So you can use Wine to go ahead and run it, and it will sort of run, but the opening and ending videos don't really work, and you can still run into some other issues. Some people are fine with that. Honestly, I'm just more of the aspect where I'm like, you know what? As soon as I get a docking station for this, so I can hook up to my TV, and I'm just going to hook up a Bluetooth controller. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to boot this bad boy into Windows mode and just go ahead and play my VNs on my TV via controller. That way, and to me that's easier.
And you know what, Benny? When I was saying that, I wasn't saying it as like this is the ideal way for things to be. My point is that people are people are forced into this ridiculous workaround for their own safety.
And it is.
Yeah. I understand them. And what my ideal solution is that next time Steam does a flip-flop and says, actually, everything's okay. We have to have it be like the Magna Carta. They have to sign it in blood in front of like a priest, a rabbi, a representative from every religion, and the site of every deity in the world, and it must be a legally binding document in every nation. That is what has to happen.
Yeah. And with that, I also will apologize, listeners. This podcast has gotten kind of just on my side heated and vitriol, but just damn it, look, it's just the thing I'm passionate about. That's why
sometimes going off the rails is what makes a podcast work. It's like, here's a structure. Now I'm going to break it.
I think, you're not the only one who's passionate about it, so it's okay. Right. So let's just move on a little bit ahead here. We have. Right, so Pernell wanted to discuss, has the market become oversaturated with the Souls-like genre?
So, like, it's funny, I mean, it's kind of spoiling the review that I'll eventually go up, but Francis had asked me to try out Moonscars on Steam, and when he suggested it to me, I was like, I'm kind of done with Souls-like games. So even though it looks interesting, I'm not sure if I want to bother with it. He's like, nah, it looks like something you might enjoy. Check it out. So I saw the trailer. I was like, hey, you know what? Fine. I'll give it a go. See what I think. And I played it, and I came away originally I was like, oh, this is just another one of those games. Here's a narrative that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care about these people or anything. And by the end, I still didn't care about the people because that's me in Souls-like games. Never care about the plot. I did come away feeling like it was more fun than I had expected it to be. But it still had me thinking, is there something more that can be done in some of these games that makes it more than just a series of mechanics that are being repeated ad nauseum? You die, leave your money behind. It's always grimdark, no color. Even in the gameplay, so like I'm okay with the challenging aspects of it, but maybe it can be done in a way where it's easier to mitigate the challenge if you know what you're doing. And it's not just about, I'm good at working skills. Like I can manipulate the system in a way that works best for me. I don't know. But it just feels like everybody that wants to make games like this, for the most part, run along the same template. And that's what kind of makes them feel so samey. But I don't know. I feel like there's maybe room for more change there to make it the games can still be Souls-like, but also feel like they differentiate from each other. But I was hoping to open the floor to others about it.
You're saying Souls-like are a little too Souls-like.
Yeah, they're all too Souls-like. Like Dark Souls and Demon Souls, I remember being like, okay, these games are great. I like the fact that this company's bringing challenge back to the table, so to speak. And I like this kind of like rustic, dead world, and I'm trying to just survive in it. But then everyone started doing that. Everyone's doing that. And even games that don't 100% go that level, like Hollow Knight, which is a great game, but even this is like, we need to have those grim, dark colors. It can't pop.
Do you remember a time? This was certainly like a big fad in British games magazines. It might have been in American ones as well. I remember when there was a time when they would refer a lot to first-person shooters back in the 90s as Doom clones.
I do remember that.
Yep. There we go. Right, it wasn't just us.
That was around too. That wasn't just a UK thing.
And
we
at
had
this
it going
point,
on over here too.
we're still referring to Souls-likes as Souls-likes. Whereas in 5-10 years, we're probably going to be calling them something else.
Doom clones became boomer shooters. That's what everybody's calling them
Yeah,
now.
well, there you go.
The revival of the boomer shooter.
That's really what they call it, and I laughed when I first heard it because I
love it.
never heard that term before.
I love it.
I want to say the first game I saw get that label was Ion Fury. It was like,
yes.
Boomer shooters are back! Like, what?
I remember. I remember talking about Ion Fury when John was here. I think it was Cory, Heather, and Benny. And they were looking at me, so I was a complete lunatic. It's like saying, it's great, she'll blow someone's head off, and she's like, yeah!
I remember that.
That's just how, games were in the 90s. It was all about gore and violence and making your parents mad and worried. And it was a wonderful time. Some would say a better time.
But the thing about that leads to the question, at what point do you think... Not so much the culture as a whole, but just like your personal take. What would you say was the first FPS you came across that made you go, this is FPS, but it's no longer a template based off of Doom. Now it's its own thing.
That's an interesting question. I think and sadly, I couldn't nail down one game because it is a bit of... So say, for example, it's like Quake would be sort of fully 3D, and I think I vaguely remember thinking, this isn't kind of like Doom where you just kind of, auto-aiming. Maybe you can sort of tilt your arrow up a little. It's like, this is a proper, you can look around a 3D world. I kind of remember that, certainly. And then by the time Unreal came along, it was like, yeah, this isn't really a Doom clone anymore. This feels different now, I'd say. What about you?
I mean, I wasn't much for FPS games for a really long time. I felt like I was like, here's Doom, this is great, and I just abandoned ship for years because it just wasn't clicking for me to a certain point. But this is going to sound cliche, so get your laughs out now. Okay. But I kind of want to say Halo might have been the one that made me go, they're adding a narrative to this now. It's more about they're trying to get some narrative plots in here. There's vehicle traversal. There's weapons that don't involve bullets anymore. And it had the 3D element too. Because I want to say the 3D part, for me, was less about taking it away from being a Doom-like, quote-unquote, and just evolving it. Now you can look around. I can actually jump. But I'm still basically just getting dumped in places with monsters, and I want to murder them. That was pretty much the shtick.
I think GoldenEye kind of would have been like a sort of a turning point as well. I really feel like that definitely because it's kind of like Doom is kind of it came from the PC and then ported to everything, whereas something like GoldenEye, it was a definitive kind of console shooter, like maybe the first.
It was the first.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not quite. I mean, there's probably technically some other ones.
Well, let me rephrase that. There were ports of Doom, yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking GoldenEye was developed.
I think it's the first iconic developed for console shooter. I think we can definitely say that, at least. Yeah, I think that was kind of a big turning point as well. When I was playing that, it's like this isn't quite like Doom. Kind of the objectives are more nuanced, and you've got your split screen play. You can have your friends around with your controllers. You don't have to kind of hook up a big cable across your PC to have a LAN
I do remember
party.
that was a big hook for it.
Yeah,
it was like
that was another kind of big evolution point as well, I think. But yeah, I mean, so what do you think it might take to kind of have the Souls-like make the next jump? Would it be technology? Will it be... What do you think?
It might not even be technology so much as like, and again, I'm sure there might be someone listening that's like a hardcore Souls-like fan. They're going to go, kiss my ass, Pern, what the hell you're talking about? But from my bubble, having come up from like the Demon Souls block up to the present, I feel like the difficulty's fine, though you can tweak it to your heart's content, because I'm not beholden to the belief that you need that difficulty to make it Souls-like. You can tweak that however you want. It's the developer's choice. But I feel like there needs to be a game that comes up where it's less cryptic. Like the information is like you can actually follow a plot. Like it's just there. Maybe some tweaks in like the vibe. Like it doesn't always have to be so grimdark. Like I used to joke about that one game that was on Xbox, the original Xbox called like Raises Hell, where it was meant to be like a complete riff on like hell-based like third person action adventure games, but you're basically a demon fighting through like fairy tale land instead. And it was meant to just particularly just say, let's riff on the typical, grim, dark FPS or third-person shooter. So I feel like they could do something like that. Make a game that has similar mechanics, but completely flips the atmosphere and stylings on its head. Make people go, I didn't think I could get this out of this kind of a game. Maybe add something where you care more about the characters outside of just like how much damage they do to you or how much damage you do to them. I don't know, but like, what about you guys? Like, do you have like much time spent with that style of game? Any thoughts on it?
I have played through all the Dark Souls, all of their DLC, all Bloodborne, all of its DLC, and all of the Surge games and all their DLC. So I've spent some time on the Dark Souls formula, and I get what you're saying, where it looks like there's a lot of the same mechanics and style, but not enough to differentiate itself. It feels like they're still missing the headpiece. You have the body, and it's functioning, and it works, and it moves, but it's missing the head. It needs something on there that really makes it stand out and go, kind of like the Surge. The Surge was the first kind of sci-fi Dark Souls, and you could pretty quickly recognize it because you could see it go, oh, it's a lot like Dark Souls, but it's got its own identity because it's, sci-fi-esque. It's all electro-industrial kind of style. And I will say it stuck well. The first game was kind of clunky in gameplay, but it stuck out. Because, like you said, it didn't feel formulaic yet. It felt like it still had room to grow. And now that it has done a little bit of growing, it's stagnated because everybody found the formula easy to replicate. The bodies were a little too easy to mass-produce versus putting the head on this thing. Everybody just kind of like, just stick something on there, and it's not letting the genre grow. I mean, you got to think about Metroidvanias, for example. When we had a big surge in those, what was the things that started setting some of them apart? Well, didn't take long before we started seeing more evolutions of it. Even just the Metroid games started evolving its own based on the formula as it grew, and other people were following suit. And like you guys said earlier with early Doom clones, they started evolving and doing other things that enhanced their mechanics. I guess it's a real question of how long do we have to wait for this subgenre to gestate before it starts evolving again. And I kind of hope that comes soon because it is a good formula that just doesn't have enough unique counterparts to set itself across.
So what I've observed from the Souls-like games, again, this is an outsider's perspective, is that everybody tells me, like, I was playing Elden Ring for so long, I couldn't think about anything else. I was sitting there drooling, and I hadn't washed in 10 days.
Oh, that's the other John. That's the other John.
I'll be blunt, though. Elden Ring is a damn
I'm just, kind of catatonic in the dim glow of my TV screen, and my wife is closing the door behind her as she packs up and leaves with the kids, kind of thing. But that when I hear that kind of thing, I think, I'm not sure I want to play that because I kind of want to play like lots of shorter games and be like, oh, hey, that was kind of fun. Let's move on to another one, or let's like watch a TV series. I'm not sure I want to put that much time into one game anymore. And
well, Elden Ring, I would say, is one, it's kind of its own, it's like an expansion of a Souls game by them saying, let's take this and throw it into a massive open world game, not one that's kind of made to look open world, but it's actually connected by narrow corridors, which I feel like a lot of the Souls games were. Not knocking it, just what I observed.
So Elden Ring is kind of an evolution of the Souls-like then?
Well, not well. It is. It's absolutely. It absolutely
mutation.
Is. It took it, and it's a mutation. That's a better way to put it. Because, like, how about we take this slap on the open world gene and see how that plays out? But the thing about that, like your description of it, and coming from my own personal experience, I feel like that's the kind of game for like a person who doesn't have a lot of time on their hands. It's like the one game a year of that type you can stomach. You don't have to be completely immersed in it, but for my personal take, I come back and forth to it because I just don't have the time to run through it indefinitely until I max it out. I just don't. But
That's
it's like that one game. Huh?
That's me and Yakuza.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I'm like that also with Like a Dragon, yeah. It's like, I know I can still just put it down. It's like one of the 2 or 3 games on my coffee table that when my queue of other games I want to play are like on standby or something, they are the ones I return to and go, where did I leave off here? Oh, yeah, that giant jug monster.
You come back, Kazuma's still gruff. People are trying to fight him on every street corner.
Yes, trying to take my doubloons.
It's easy to get back into.
Yeah, right. It's just a fun. It's like it's cool to explore and just see what's around the corner when I have free time. But it still has those same hangups that I had for some of these games. Like, it's still a grimdark world. The characters still very much like, you meet them and you can have these exchanges with them, but they're still kind of like these like cryptic characters they kind of wrote up, and you have to kind of put together their history yourself through documents you find on the ground or whatever. I don't know. But but I loved Elden Ring. I'm not knocking that at all. It's probably going to be my game of the year, despite having not played it in a bit. It's probably going to be my game of the year this year. But
go ahead.
I'll
say I don't really play the Souls games but what scares me away from them honestly is the difficulty. It's just I know there's the ones that aren't necessarily as hard, but it's just like I go, oh, look, I got enough frustrating things in my life. I don't need another frustrating thing. But I almost have.
You spoke heresy, Benny. You spoke heresy.
I don't want another frustrating thing like Pernell getting disconnected.
I got so far.
You got so far, but Benny's words of heresy kicked you out.
It finally happened.
Yeah.
My God, no! Because honestly, I'm not of the ilk. The part I did catch it, what you said, is the difficulty level was a deterrent. And I will say...
the thing about Benny is that, and difficulty is, if he gets his hands on Elden Ring, he's going to have to get every single achievement, which is going to make it even worse.
I gave up on
it. We'll do it. I want to drink again.
Now, see, I'm of a different ilk there. Like, while I love that the games are challenging, and I don't refute them myself, I am of the ilk that if a game company came out and said, we want to do this, but find a way to make us that the challenging aspect isn't as heavy, I'd be fine with seeing someone try it. While I will say that it has become embedded as part of what makes a Souls like what it is. I don't think it has to be. But I'm also not the guy that will say you have to change that. It's just developer's choice in that regard. Because the hiccup is not so much that the game has to be hard. I feel like the thing that makes it really sing is that it's an even playing challenge. Like, people will say, why not add a difficulty level to these games? And I say, I'm not a fan of that. Though, again, if the developer chooses to, they can. I'm not going to knock them for their decisions. But I feel like what makes them special is the ability to be able to say, my experience, not so much the exploration part, but what we had to engage in when we came across it was 100% the same. So it's just a matter of how we approached it that was different. That's why I think uniform difficulty adds to the experience. But that doesn't mean that the developer itself can't say, we're going to make our game a bit easier and more approachable than these guys did. So I'm on board with you there. There was a game that came out recently, like Steam. It's like a steampunk version of a Souls type game I read about.
Rising.
Still Rising, where they were saying that game is a bit easier on the difficulty scale than the typical type of the game. I haven't played it myself, so I can't say, but I would like to try it to see for sure if that's true, because that would be exactly what you're looking for, I would think.
Now, what I will say, just to kind of finish up this point real quick, was like that's what keeps me away from him. But I also wonder if maybe the genre needs at least a small break just to kind of cool down and just kind of give people time to think and go, all right, what have we learned from all this? But the biggest problem, of course, you have with that is, let's be honest, there's a lot of these games that are coming out now that have been in development for 1 to 2 years already. And so I think we're like everything else, like fighting games back in the 90s before they went to a crash, and hopefully it doesn't happen in this case. But, I think things do go through a bit of an ebb and a flow. And so I kind of wonder if we're just kind of at that, we're at not really peak souls for it, but like you're just at a high point right now where there's so much coming out. You've just got the genre's going to have to cool off for just a little bit, and that'll spark some creativity, I think, in people. And maybe by next year we're talking about this. Maybe there's some really good stuff that's coming out. Maybe it's already in development. We just haven't heard about it yet.
Because that would be awesome. I would love to see it. Love to see it.
On that note, I'm afraid I have to close this topic because, gentlemen, it is time. It is time for that the penultimate segment. What you been doing? What you been playing?
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing,
Forget
bada boom.
about it.
Hey,
Forget
it's video
about
games. Forget about it. Okay. Right, so, Cory, would you like to go first?
All right, I suppose I should go first. So, I have been busy with only one game, really, and that is Genshin Impact, because they dropped an entire continent for one, and then proceeded to announce, we only dropped half of it. Here's the other half. I'm just sitting here like, oh, Lord. This
I'm
is
so
going
sorry.
to be a very, very long time. I am still exploring it because it is just a network. For some nations, they had a widespread area. For some, they were more vertically inclined. This one decided to throw all of that into one area. And I don't get me wrong, this is not a complaint. I love what they have done with this. This giant lush jungle of cool sights and running around in the continent of Sumeru has been a fucking treat for the past month now. I love it. But it does bring me to an interesting point that I think I would like to just take a quick minute to go over before I go on to whatever shenaniganry I was on. The thing with Genshin is all of their continents are based on different nations. And Sumeru's is based off of Persia, India, and places like that. And it got me thinking, you don't see a lot of games that draw inspiration from those areas. I think about all the games that draw from like Japanese mythology or American culture or even Germany and other European culture, but you think about it in India and Asia, or not Asia, but Arabia and stuff like that, you don't see a lot of games take inspiration from those places.
No, they take it from Egypt instead.
Yeah, they do have an Egyptian area too for Sumeru over in the desert area. They'd start drawing from Egyptian stuff, but I think that's the most from those kind of areas, and I'll admit, it was very refreshing. And I love the architecture and culture, and granted, some of the names are hard to pronounce because we don't hear them very often, but it was just a really interesting sight to see somewhere that you don't see very often in video games. I can only think of like a handful of games that draw, inspiration from Hindu mythology and, areas in that area like that. I like Asura's Wrath. Crash Bandicoot had a couple of Saudi Arabia themed levels, and other than that, I can't think of a lot of other places that drew from that. It's really refreshing on the music, the style, the architecture of all the buildings. It's been a great treat, I will say. Granted, that once we got to the Egyptian area, my God, the Yu-Gi-Oh memes have been going fucking wild, and I'm here for everything. Oh God, they're everywhere. I love it. But that's what's been chewing most of my time recently. I admittedly have been mainly just sticking with that, though I have gotten code for the Fridge is Red horror game Josh gave up to me, and I remember, I think I saw Markiplier play it at one point. I'm going to sit down with that once I'm finally chewed through the rest of the quests in Sumeru. Other than that, though, I haven't been playing too awful much. Though I did pick up a couple of trinkets. Benny might know what these are, but I don't suppose you've ever seen one of these, Benny.
That is a fruit lock from Gaiam?
Lock seeds from Gaim. I not only have them, but I got the driver too.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen that still, but I've heard it's really good.
It was a fantastic season of Kamen Rider, and I got all of these lock seeds for $100. These
I saw that device you just had. My first thought was like, Cory's embarking on his directorial debut. In action!
No, actually, I really enjoyed Gaim, and when I saw that for as cheap as it was, usually Gaim's shit goes for like $250 to $300 for a lot like that, and to see it for $100, I'm like, I gotta get it. I gotta get it.
I wonder if it was one of the reissues. That'd be cool.
I need to find what this Gaim is. I'm thinking about The Sims, like, what's a Gaim? Oh!
So Gaim, if I remember right, the kanji stands for Armored Warrior. And that's the season of Kamen Rider where they don't refer to them as Kamen Riders. They refer to them as Armored Riders. They changed the name because it's all based off of the Warring States period.
Okay.
All of their transformations, all based on different warriors and based on fruit. It is wild, but I really enjoyed Time.
Pineapple transform!
Which I'm going to lead into a fun point that actually loops back to our shit. We have Kamen Rider Gates has recently debuted, and he is based on Battle Royale. They draw straight inspiration from Apex Legends and Fortnite for this season of Kamen Rider. And it's been interesting. Yes, they actually have full-on taken up the Battle Royale role, and it's been good so far. I've been very interested in it, and to see how much inspiration it's going to draw from that kind of genre of gaming. We've already had one gaming-themed Kamen Rider season, which was X-Aid, but now and that was a damn good season, so I'm kind of hoping Gates will live up to the same kind of legacy.
Okay. I really need to start watching Kamen Rider again. It's been so long.
It's so good, man. The best seasons, in my opinion, were Build, Gaim, and X-Aid.
It kind of blows my mind that show, and amongst others, mind you, like Dragon Ball, are still rolling with new content to this day. Like they continue to write stories.
Super Sentai and Kamen Rider are two of the longest running series you will find anywhere.
Yeah, they've been going. Kamen Rider's going. They with Revice, they had their 50th anniversary, so 50 years of that shit, and it's still going.
Yep.
Also, for my last little bit, I picked up some goodies from Amazon. I got Senran Kagura Burst Renewal Collector's Edition. I got Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. I got that Collector's Edition. And I got Dancer. I got all of these for $100.
Where'd you get those from again?
Amazon. Amazon of all places.
Finding good deal.
I've been on a rampage lately with my sales, and
I'm on my non-collector Sakuna of Rice and Ruin over here. Plebeian version.
I'm just glad to see the prices of collector's editions starting to drop, so that people like me that enjoy the physical editions of games and also getting some little goodies with it, it's just nice to have that ability to pick them up for so much cheaper than when they first launched. And it goes to show sometimes it's not a bad idea to wait, even though collector's editions, they tempt you. It's like, it's only going to be 1,000 units, and we're only going to have the sale available for a couple of minutes. Here's looking at you, Rebirth 1. Fuck you.
So they're screwing over people.
It opens
Twitch.
Up at 3 a.m. Get online and pre-order now.
They're screwing over people on Twitch to lower prices on Amazon. I see your game, Jeff Bezos. I see your game.
They know what we like. We're suckers for a good deal, man. I am anyways. I mean, I'm sorry, $25 for a collector's edition of a game. And I see this happen a lot with Japanese collector's editions, too. I picked up a bunch of them. The thing that gets you is the importing fees, though. But if you find a seller that puts all their boxes together for combined shipping, you could get a good steal off of some of them games from Japan.
And in 3 weeks, it'll be yours.
Yep.
Yeah, for an entire month, and it shows up in a box that's taped with all kinds of orange tape to look like you just got shipped live coronavirus.
On that,
did you know I've done some?
Open with a mess.
Very edgy note. Let's take it to Benny. Benny, what have you been up to?
Well, this month has been MacBook hell for me because of work. Long and short, I got a project dumped on me where I had to migrate MacBooks from one system to another, and it is not. We finished it, and I damn near lost my mind. So I've been trying to find my happy place all month. So to do that, I've done various things. One is I have been listening to a lot of Toho Eurobeat recently.
Oh, that's a good stuff.
It has been fantastic.
Are we talking like Red Alice? Like Red Alice?
I'm using A1 Official's YouTube channel, and they actually have a 24/7 stream where it's just the music's playing, and I listen to it right now, in fact, but I listen to that like during work just to keep my spirits up, and some good stuff on there, some good stuff.
Dojinshi circles for Toho are fucking nuts.
Oh, yeah. I also want to point out, Tales of Symphonia friggin' is getting a remaster, and I have the collector's edition pre-order for Xbox already. I have the Steelbook. I don't care. I'm so happy about that.
That game's like his second remaster, isn't it?
Yeah, because there was the PS3 version, which I have that collector's edition still. I never got around to playing the PS3 version, but I am going to get all the damn achievements on the Xbox One. So
it just makes me sad that they're like, I love Symphonia, no doubt, no lie, but I'm sitting there thinking like, come on, hook us up with a Tales of Destiny 1 remaster or Tales of Eternia remaster.
I want them to actually, despite I have mixed feelings about it, I would love for them to redo Tales of Graces again.
That was a great game.
I have some issues with it, but at the same time, it is still a fun game with a bunch of fun characters.
I felt like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or not so much correct, but like give me your take on it, but I honestly felt like, I played it when I was recovering from surgery. That's surprisingly how I was able to complete the entire game, including that bonus back into the game that they added to F. But I felt like the combat in that game was like a solid evolution. Is what they were doing, mainly because I hated having to constantly chug freaking pineapple gels just to do the things that make the combat system worth doing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the combat in that game was fantastic. Well, I don't want to spend too long because I've got other stuff to get to on it, but yes. I'll say my shorthand on this, I like the characters. I love the world. Walking that world was so cool. Mm-hmm. I hate the main villain, and I hate that they try to make Asbel Usagi Tsukino. There are certain enemies you can talk down. There are certain and look, you can do that. That bad dude is not one of those ones that you should have been spending half the game trying to talk down, is all I'm going to say.
Just cut him and talk to him in the hospital.
There you go.
Break his legs first.
So,
break his legs!
One of the other things I brought up on this is I brought up my love of Sympho Gear.
Good series.
The Blu-ray for GX came out. I will just say this is, of the 3 series I've seen, I need to see seasons 4 and 5 still. This is my least favorite, and I can describe it for one reason why. Beef Stroganoff. I'm not lying. Beef Stroganoff is a thing in this. But I do...
Benny, how much vodka have you had today?
Is it
not enough.
You've been drinking vodka and shampoo again.
If you've never seen GX, I'm saying makes no sense. If you've seen GX, the mere mention of beef stroganoff, you'll just go, oh fuck. But the reason I wanted to pick this up, even though it's like a bad Mario game is still a damn good game. It's still a damn good series, and this will actually have all the songs subtitled, which the Crunchyroll version did not. So I still want to watch it.
They fucked that up bad. That's what drew me away from the series, because it's like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying in the song. That's half the enjoyment of this.
Grab any of the Discotheque Blu-rays. They have, not only did they redo the translation, all the songs are subtitled, and the subtitles for the songs are like in the corners, so you're not in the way of everything, say if the characters are talking. But they also give you the omakes on the Blu-ray.
Okay,
so
yeah, I'll go watch that from.
It's fantastic. Last 3 things, so I'll roll through them really quick, John. I've played the LUSD Gundam game. I don't like it. It makes me want to play Dynasty Warriors Gundam again, and I just go, and I love Dynasty Warriors Gundam, and I just go, that was a much better game. If you want a specific complaint, I hate the partner AI, and trying to defeat Big Zam or the stupid bird from Iron-Blooded Orphans with your partners on normal is just no. I threw the game on easy and said screw it. I'll give the game a point though. They lovingly recreated the Domon versus Master Asia fight. One of the best versions of that, despite the fact I do not like how little G Gundam is featured in the game. But not really for me. I'll finish it off and be done with it. I have instead been playing Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town because I actually like that game. And I'm in Winter 1, or Year 1 Winter, and I am going for all the achievements, so that'll be my goal for October. Last thing. I already held up one of the books, but this is a series of light novels called I'm in Love with the Villainess. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Yuri genre, it depicts relations between women, or girls in this case, etc. It is not smutty in that aspect, so it's more of a, it's a light novel. These are actually rated for, does it say what, teen 13 plus? So I mean they're fairly tame. But long and short, girl who was an office worker wakes up in basically her favorite Otome video game. However, when playing the game, she always, even though it's not a route you could choose, always liked the villainess. So she actually, being isekai'd somehow, starts trying to woo the villainess. And that's kind of what the first book sort of is. The second book goes a little bit further into that. And also starts to bring up the idea, deals with issues like gender dysphoria. Like, it goes places where I wish more anime had the balls to actually go and do. Book 3, they get a family. So there's fucking payoff in this shit, okay?
Raising our little villainy.
Book 4 is what I'm on right now, and I'm about 3/4 through with it. Deals basically with book 3 starts the second arc of the story, because it was originally supposed to be just the first 2 volumes, and then
wait,
volume
the children are still the first arc?
No, the children. Well, the children get introduced at the very end of the first arc, but they're really kind of fleshed out in the second arc. But book 3, 4, and book 5, which comes out like next week, on October 11th, I guess compose the second arc. But it is fantastic. It is a very sweet story. I'm not going to say it's for everybody because it's one of those that it's, taste is subjective. But if you are a Yuri fan and you have been looking for just a good Yuri story that actually isn't just a bunch of teasing, I'm looking at you, Neptune. Actually has some development. Then you know what? Give it a read. The books are like $11 each, and they are absolutely fantastic. And with that, I'm going to sip my drink like a cultured person and shut the hell up.
Oh, thank you, Benny. That's definitely something to add to my reading list there. I'm in love with the villainess. Okay, Pernell, what should be? Oh man,
comparatively, I'm quite pedestrian over here. I'm like, I've been having like a lot of like back and forth on games lately. So like I've been bouncing around with like One Shot World Machine Edition. Super Bullet Break, surprisingly, is a game that clicked for me quite a bit. I am back still on Shin Megami Tensei 5. Maybe I'll beat it this year. We'll find the heck out. Game just feels like it goes on and on and on. I don't know why, because I love the franchise. Otherwise, it's just indefinite. I played a game recently that I really came to like, and I'm really onto it. It's called Carl. It's this little game about a robot that goes with exploring evil facility to try to like root out like corruption and like government, corporate secrets from within the company. It's a weird little game. It's great. It's like a long lost Genesis game, but I'm playing that on the Xbox, and I'm a big fan of that right now. I want to play a game I bought, but I haven't booted up yet. It's called Justice Sucks, about a Roomba that's like just like on a revenge rampage.
I saw the review for that on the site.
Oh, yeah, I looked like the premise alone made me go, I gotta buy this. Like, it was one of those sight unseen purchases just because the premise seemed so absurd. I gotta give the credit where it's due. But like, I'm bouncing around so many different games. Like, I started playing around with Shovel Knight Dig. I kind of just want a new normal Shovel Knight game with that art style and like Jake Kaufman tunes now, because it's been a long time since we've had traditional Shovel Knight, but I want more of that with new Shovel Knight gadgetry and the like. But aside from that, it's just been expanding my Switch collection and not having enough time to play half the stuff that's on there. I have a mixed relationship with Square Enix now because they gave us a copyright strike on our radio station because like you can't play Final Fantasy music for people for free. What is wrong with you? So that was a trip, but for the most part, I'm not sure if I was doing this the last time I came on here, but I'm playing through slowly, mind you, because time is a bitch. The Shining Force 3 trilogy on the Saturn. I finally have the means to sit there and play it, like all 3 versions of it, scenario 1 through 3, and it holds up. It is freaking gold. It makes me sad that, and I say this as a guy who likes the aforementioned series that's coming up, it makes me sad that Shining Force stopped at 3, but then Fire Emblem exploded, and we get like constant new releases of Fire Emblem games. Because of the 2, I prefer Shining Force. And I'd much prefer them both existing, but if I had to choose one, it would be Shining Force, hands down. And it's just not happening.
I need to play Shining Force. It's been on my to-do list. Now, with the quick question for you, with the ones on the Saturn, those were originally, they come out of the West, or were they Japanese only originally?
So they came out in Japan, but we only got the first of the 3. And at that point, Saturn was dying in America, so Sega just opted not to port the other 2 games. And despite their love of re-releases and Ultimate Genesis collections and whatever re-releases they've been doing, they never thought to say, you know, what would make us money? Releasing this long-lost product that people still talk about on the internet regularly. Kind of dropped the ball on it. But what I would say to you as far as playing the games and how much time they take, I actually played through Shining Force 1 for the very first time last year on a bet that I couldn't do it all within 1 month. Now, I say that knowing my busy schedule. That's what makes the 1 month such a rough. Like, can you do it? And I did. So it's 100% doable, even on a busy reviewer and article writer's schedule.
What did you bet?
It was only $25, but I'm a cheapskate, so $25 is a lot of money.
There you go.
So I was like, I want to win some money, so hook it up. Played the whole game in less than a month, and I loved it. My original reason for not wanting to play it was thinking that it couldn't compare to Shining Force 2, which I played multiple times prior to ever playing the first game, and also the fact that it was also a very old game. But it holds up. It's still fun, and I think you would like it.
Yeah. I've got it on one of the Xbox collections I have here, so I mean, I just need to friggin' do it. But
do it! I want to hear you talk about it on the next podcast. Like, oh, Purnell suggested, I finally did it. He was right. And I can say, I told you so.
Okay, yeah, let's do that then. So let's as you said, you're a betting man.
Yeah.
I will go ahead. I will, by the next podcast, I need to play Shining Force 1. Okay?
Yes.
Now, I'm still going to, the reason I'm saying by next podcast is I'm also still going to be working on Story of Seasons. I want to have that mostly done by then too. If I win, I'll suggest something for you to play or read or something. I'll send you something. Otherwise, if you win, I don't know. You could suggest I have to play something as punishment, I guess.
But Purnell, you have to read all of I'm in Love with the Villainess. There you go.
I would gladly send you all 5 volumes of that. It's a good book.
All right.
Hey, maybe that'll be the bet then.
The gauntlet has been laid down, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, next podcast.
It's official.
Okay, well.
Any regrets, John? Any regrets?
Well, I just think if we were on Twitch, we could get banned for mentioning gambling right now. So.
Roll them bones.
Roll them. Okay. Anyway, so. Getting on to me. Now, I first want to talk about a little game called Police Stories. Anyone heard of Police Stories?
I actually have not, but now I want to.
Okay, so it's a top-down kind of thing. It's sort of Hotline Miami style, but instead of playing a criminal, you're playing a cop. Your job is to go into the location, arrest all the criminals, secure all the civilians, and if you encounter any resistance, blam, 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 right? Sounds straightforward enough, but Sometimes it's not always clear who you're supposed to shoot and who you're supposed to arrest. It's like sometimes a guy will go, okay, you got me. and then he'll reach for it. And sometimes he'll be putting his gun down, but like, oh shit, he's going to shoot me. And it's just kind of like, yeah, it's just full of those incredibly tense decisions, and you can use things like gas grenades and flash bombs and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, and it's so tense because just 1 or 2 bullets and you're gone. Now, that sounds hard enough, especially when it's kind of at a really fast pace. But the new expansion has zombies. They've added zombies to the
Because of course they did.
You arrest a zombie.
So the zombies will go around. Not only will they attack you and infect you and turn you into a zombie, they'll turn all the kind of criminals and the civilians into zombies who will attack you as well.
You're under arrest for unsolicited brain consumption.
Tase him fast.
You can't. You can pulse. You can tase the zombies and they just go. There's only one way to put a zombie down. Blam blam. There we go. Anyway, yeah, that was fun. Like the
or
other,
through negotiations.
Negotiations, yeah. All we want to do is eat your brains. We're not unreasonable. We don't want to eat your eyes. There we go.
Here's my opening statement.
So yeah, other games I've been playing. I've also been playing a little game called Betrayal at Club Low. I don't know if any of you guys heard of Tales of Off-Peak City. Does it ring any bell? Right. So Francis gave this game. It's about you. It's kind of this bizarre, absurdist sort of world, kind of, expressionist art kind of thing. And you're sort of this silvery-faced mannequin who's also a pizza delivery man, who's also a secret agent. And he has to...
Secret agent slice!
Yeah, exactly. And so he has to kind of infiltrate this club to rescue this guy. And the way he does it is you roll dice against your opponent. Now, your opponent can either be a person or it can be an inanimate object. So say you're trying to open a lock, you can roll it, and then you get frustrated. And then you roll even more dice. Then you start losing health and your sanity because the lock's so hard to figure out.
So this has tabletop mechanics.
So yeah, and you can basically die or go insane from any from anything if your mood just gets bad enough. So
Here, have a slice of pizza. Why? You always get upset when you haven't eaten your slice of pizza.
Exactly.
And they have to roll the dice to eat the pizza, and they just roll
the pizza are extra dice you can roll. So say you top your dice with toppings, right? So you say on one side you put mozzarella, which will give you extra money, and then you put pepperoni, which will give you even more money. And then you'll have a basil, which will multiply your money.
This game sounds amazing. How is this underrated?
I'm not drunk enough for this right now.
You roll the pizza dice, and you can get more money, or you can make your opponent have to re-roll, or you can switch your dice and his dice.
Imagine going to your boss's office excuse me, sir, I've been working here for a long time, and I can really stand to have a raise. Well, that depends. You need to roll these pizza dice.
Yeah, and it's just
how much money you get.
There's so many ways you can kind of go for each problem. You can sort of do some kind of crazy dance to sort of distract people, just dislocate kind of your limbs and that kind of thing, and you can make jokes and observations. And yeah, it's not just your typical point-and-click game where you just use X item to, make another item do something else. You're sort of using your skills and you're calculating the odds on the dice, and it's just like nothing I've ever played before. And Pernell was talking about the evolution of the Souls-like. This is the evolution of the point and click game. Coming 30 odd years later. It's evolving.
You said just the evolution of the pizza delivery genre. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like meshing all kind. It's like pineapple pizza. It's like
Pineapple Pizza
It's
Express.
like meshing two genres you never expected to go together, but somehow it works. And then
you end up with cheese stuffed pizza crust.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what's all these weird little candies on top of the pizza crust? Those are barbiturates. You're about to have a very good trip delivering that pizza.
The whole game is basically like you're on drugs. It's people talk in terms of musical instruments, right? So if it's kind of a deep voice guy, he'll talk like a kind of a bass guitar, so kind of like the Peanuts teachers kind of thing. And yeah, everyone will talk like that. And it's just so groovy, it's so cool. There's so many different things you can do. So it's so innovative. It's brilliant. Read my review and go out and give it a go. It's only like a few quid, I think. So,
roll your mozzarella dice.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love that.
Exactly. Well, that's a brief summary of what I've been doing. Okay. Anyone else before we wrap up? Any last minute little shout outs, last piece of business?
I don't even know.
Okay.
Oh, read I'm in love with the villainous.
Read
Go
I'm
play
in
more
love with
board
the
games.
villainous.
You want to go
Play more
subscribe
board
to
games.
Madness and lose hundreds of hours of your time? Just go enjoy some Genshin. Come join me.
Yep.
So we can all lose our shit together.
Suffering is better together, folks. You heard
Misery
it.
loves company.
Misery loves company. All right.
I've been in the jungle for 3 weeks. Set me free, goddammit!
Okay, well,
Set me free.
before Cory starts going crazy from the Nam flashbacks, the Genshin flashbacks, it ain't me,
Cory,
it ain't me.
Cory, trust me, and we can escape from the city.
Oh,
Rolling around it.
Okay, well, there's just one thing left to say. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, people.
Wait. Before you go, be sure to check out HeyPaulPlayer.com for more HeyPaul content and check out all our social media. And don't forget to check out my Twitter as well. That's me, Jonathan Trussler. Well, it's really the final goodbye now. Bye.